Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme: Celtic's hopes of playing European football in the new year lie in tatters after a 2-0 defeat at home to Borussia Mönchengladbach. All thoughts now switch to the League Cup semi-final at the weekend. It's Rangers against Celtic on the Sunday, and Rangers boss Mark Warburton says to win in the match, his side will need to play with pace, aggression and of course at a very high level. That's just a few of the talking points we'll be discussing on the programme tonight. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Morton, and I'm delighted that our bootroom guest is Rangers legend Ian Durrant. So, in the end, I thought they were outclassed, outplayed, outthought, and if you listened to the stands, they were almost certainly outsung by the travelling support.
Yeah, I think outthought was a big one. I think you have to give credit to the Borussia manager. I think he'd obviously watched the Man City game. He nullified the three dangers on the Celtic side, and it was Forrest, Sinclair and Tierney. I think these three were big players in the first game. They got forward, put quality balls into the box for Dembele. That just never happened, and I thought the energy that the Borussia side had was the energy that Celtic had against Man City. I think they were fantastic. I thought the movement in the ball and control of the ball, the pace they passed, that was absolutely a joy to watch.
Yeah, and of course the manager would have highlighted the two mistakes that were made, but over and above that, they were well worthy of the win, Ian. And again, you can understand that the hype after the Manchester City game, that maybe people are thinking, get this win, 4 points might be enough.
I think you're spot on. I think the expectation levels after the Man City game, I think they went sky high. People were forgetting now Borussia Mönchengladbach now top four in the Bundesliga, now special league, tough league, and no mugs. They came now not prepared now with 5 regulars out, but they showed over the piece what a quality they are. Everybody will highlight the mistakes, but as you said, they were miles ahead of Celtic in terms of the pace they played at the tempo.
Yeah, we're talking about technical ability week in, week out. The Germans displayed it in abundance last night. And of course, there were two critical points that Kolo Toure won't want to look back on with any great gusto over the last 24 hours. Brendan Rodgers and Toure's centre-half teammate Eric Zviachenko reflected on his mistakes that gave Borussia Mönchengladbach 2 goals.
We were a bit spread out, and I would have done the same in the first, covering out, because we are defenders and we need to use our physics, but sometimes it doesn't happen as you are planning, and I've tried that many times, and we all stand together, and the second one is just a pass and then the breakthrough, and that's football.
As I said, there'll be no one more disappointed tonight than him. He knows, he's experienced enough to know that he should deal with the first one, and the second one was unfortunate. The guys worked away and finished it brilliantly, a toe poke finish. So, but yeah, that's why he's been in the game for so long. You know, he hurts. He's an honest player, so tonight will hurt him. But he's also a warrior as well, and he's a guy that is very mentally tough, and he will recover. So, but tonight he'll hurt, as will the team, as will we all. But we'll go again tomorrow and get ready for the weekend.
I don't think he has to bear the brunt of it, but for Craig Gordon and a few interceptions, it could have been far heavier than a 2-0 defeat, Ruffy.
Yeah, in the first half, they were opening up Celtic very easily. You're right, Craig Gordon had 2 super saves, and that was a worry early on. I think the signs were there that this team were going to create chances, but fair credit to the big guy for holding his hands up and, you know, it was there for everybody to see, but it takes a big guy to come into a press conference and say, it was my fault, sorry about that.
Yeah, I know it's a team game. You know, at times when I was looking at the mistakes at the back are obviously there for everybody to see. You know, Beaton looked a little sluggish in the middle. James Forrest spent most of the game chasing their left back Vent, and Moussa Dembele never really got a sniff in the game at all, a chance of note.
Nothing at all. I think the best chance for Sinclair in the first half. But as Ruffy stated earlier, now they stopped Celtic's best players. I don't think Celtic played with anywhere near the intensity they played in the last few games, especially now the tempo play against Man City. And it just shows you now the higher you go, now Ruffy, now being ex-footballers, you're caught out. See, if you make mistakes at that level, you're done. You're not, no disrespect to the bread and butter leagues, but you maybe get away with it in the Scottish Premier League, but in the Champions League, you're done because of the calibre player you're playing against.
Yeah, here's how the table looks now with Celtic with that solitary point. Mönchengladbach now in a better frame of mind, and of course the next match day 4, is Borussia Mönchengladbach against Celtic. Barcelona, of course, rampant last night against the 10 men of Manchester City, and Lionel Messi with his 7th Champions League hat-trick. He gets to keep the ball and build another extension for the 40-odd hat-tricks that he's managed to get into the bargain. But is he happy, I ask you? As far as Celtic's hopes of playing European football, I think the Celtic manager is fairly realistic about it beyond the new year.
Very difficult, of course. I think it was earmarked as a game that was always going to be tough for us away from home at this level, and home games were going to be important for us. So it wasn't to be tonight. We just we'll play the remainder of every game. Now we obviously have the next game over there, which we respect will be tough again, and we have to do the very best that we possibly can.
It's no embarrassment, Ruffy. I think at the end of the day, he's on a building stage here with Celtic. This is a huge learning curve for them. I don't see them getting anything out of Germany. Certainly can't see them defeating Barcelona at Celtic Park, although, listen, many will look to stranger results against Barcelona, and then you've got to go Man City last game.
Yeah, I think on the evidence of last night, you wouldn't have thought that Celtic could change it that much, that they would go over there and win. I know we all go into games and you can get funny score lines, but I thought they were impressive last night. And you're right, Man City and Barcelona coming up, it's a hard shift. But if they learn anything from it, then and move on, then I'm sure the Celtic supporters will be happy with that next year.
Is there a bonus, and I'm asking you to go back through your memory banks, is there a bonus for Rangers going into the semi-final, hoping Celtic could be leggy after this one?
I think that it should be, and I think that's something Rangers may play on. But now, it's well documented. Celtic have got a fantastic squad of players, and I'm sure, I don't think he'll rotate much. But if there is something for Rangers to play on, I think it will be the defeat. Celtic will be looking to the game now after the defeat, and also Rangers will be looking at the game after the 5-1 defeat. So the game will maybe balance itself up, but I think Rangers have got to come out the traps, and we'll see how Celtic react. But I think now there'll be a positive reaction from both camps. I
was going to ask you, do you think the manager needs to change his tactics against Celtic?
I think he'll certainly, well, from where I'm looking, I think he'll have to be a bit more disciplined in terms of their back four, keep them intact. The Old Firm games, now, if you're an underdog, now anything can happen, but the main thing in the Old Firm game is to stay in the game. Now, don't be chasing your tail, so you stay in the game and stay as long as you can, which they done last year. Now, they stayed in the game, and Celtic put a lot of pressure on the second half in the come away, albeit winning penalties, but they stayed the pace with Celtic. Again, Celtic, they've got to stay with Celtic. They've got to stay in the game, as I said, as long as they can, and hopefully on that day you may get a bit of luck to win the game.
Yeah, it's going to be so different again. I mean, let's first of all hear from Mark Warburton, because the Scottish Cup semi-final, Rangers played by far the better football that day. Eventually, as Ian mentioned, won on penalties. Then back comes Celtic with a 5-1 win, and Mark Warburton, the Rangers boss, thinks Hampden Park is going to be a completely different game this time around.
It's a semi-final at Hampden. It's a different venue for one, as opposed to being at Ibrox or Parkhead. So it's a different type of atmosphere. It's when we had the Petrofac last year, and we had obviously the semi-final. So I'm not saying familiar with the place, but it certainly won't be completely new to many of the squad. Far from it. What we have to do is recognise we're building here. We're building hopefully strong foundations for what we hope will be a very prosperous future. That's what we hope. This is another step on that road, that journey.
What else do Rangers have to do?
I think they have to score first. I think Ian's been in enough games that form goes out the window at a Rangers and Celtic game, but goals give you that lift, and I think if you look back at the last game, although Celtic won 5-1, I think for the first 20 minutes it was pretty even. Celtic got the goal, and I think if you ask Mark Warburton, he will say in the second half they were still in the game until the sending off, but I think it's goals that lift you and lift the support as well, and it'll be equal amount of support this weekend, and I think that's when that first goal hits the back of the net, that'll be the lift-off.
I'm going to talk to Ian after the break about individual battles, but the last one was all about two individuals. This time around you've got a fit Scott Brown, you've got a fit Andy Halliday. They could be key in the middle of the park, and I think Rangers fans are happy that Halliday's in there, and this is not some kind of a circus sideshow.
No, and I'm sure Halliday will as well. It's always good, to go into your next game, know that you've done well, particularly well against your opposition. So he'll be getting into the game with confidence. And Scott Brown, I'm sure the Celtic supporters will be hoping he's not playing that Franz Beckenbauer role that he played last night, that he'll be playing in a more forward position and causing trouble going forward in the opposition's half.
Okay, we're going to talk about Celtic, Rangers and Morton, Aberdeen, as well as the future for the man who's our boot-room guest. Ian Durrant will join us after the break. More Old Firm chat and other news of the day coming up next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Alan Ruff is with me here in the studio. Our boot-room guest is Ian Durrant. We're enjoying Durrant's company that much. We're talking in the break and across the bumpers as well. It's fantastic. It's just great to get him here. Ruffy, we've tried for the last 32 weeks to get him here, but finally we've managed to get him in the studio, which is great.
Yeah, it's always the same when you leave on a big stretch limo. You know, they always appear.
I'd love to see.
It was the Wraith interchange, the traffic coming from Newton Mills.
And of course, what I was going to say to you there, stretch limo, not quite even in his pomp when he was playing and strutting his stuff for Rangers. I'm not sure you'd have been one of the guys going into that car park with a flash car, Ian.
No, one thing now, I'm not a flash man in terms of cars. I like my wee Golf, and that gets me from A to B. Yeah. I'm not a Ferrari or a Bentley man.
Yep, absolutely. And there are other good cars you can buy as well, just in case people feel we're mentioning 2 or 3 brands. Let's talk about what this game, how you see it panning out now. Who do you think is going to be the key player for Rangers if they are going to get the win?
I think it'll be Andy Halley. I think the engine room of the game, we'll come up against Scott Brown, and Celtic are strong in there, and Rangers will need to be strong. I think we having wee Holty back gives them another dimension now. I think they missed his legs early in the season. I think now they seem to strike up a great relationship last year now, Halliday and Holt, and it'll be interesting to see if Windass is fit or if he goes with Cranchar. But that'll be important. The middle of the park, if he can dominate there, then you've got a fair good chance of winning the game.
Yeah. Who would you go with? Would you play Cranchar? Because week by week, he is of a certain age, but he's got quality. Maybe just doesn't have the legs.
Got great ability. I think now everybody's questioning the legs. But if I was pushed out, I would love to see Windass play if he's fit enough. I think again he'll give Rangers another totally different one. But he goes beyond players. He plays in the wee holes in the pockets. Something now it's quite hard if you're not switched on the middle of the park to pick up. And he seems to now have a great eye for now exploiting the wee holes. And I think when you see that, I think then it brings in your centre forwards into play far quicker. Yeah,
if you were, and of course you've been a coach, all the experience that you've had, if you were a Rangers manager going into that dressing room knowing, in a kind of a role reversal from your playing days, that you were playing against a side that had, a bigger squad, maybe some people, in some people's view, better players, what would you be saying to those Rangers players ahead of that game?
Well, it's documented that they have got better players in positions and they have bigger squad. But again, that's as rough as the Old Firm game is. It's a totally different game and try to work out. I don't think tactics, anything comes in it on the day. It's who wants it the most. And if you go in and you feel as though you're not up to the job, you'll get beat. Rangers, I think, were second best at Celtic Park. Now it's the 5-1 result doesn't hide, but again, you've got a chance of rectifying it. It'll be now screened all over the world, full house at Hampden. And you want to go and prove yourself. It's now time, if you want to be a Rangers player, step up to the plate and go and show what you can do.
Yeah. As far as yourself, I think your experience, the player you were, and all the coaching that you've got would be a tremendous loss to our game if you didn't want to get back in. It's clearly something I think you'd like to explore.
Yeah, I'm looking at all avenues. I'm sick of going to Asda with Roy and cleaning the cars now. I've had a wee 3 month break there. Enjoyed the break. Played a bit of golf, nice weather, but I'm looking to get back in, albeit at the expense of somebody losing their job. But again, it's something I want to now carry on. I think I can still offer somebody who's willing to take a wee, I wouldn't say a gamble or a chance, but just to get a chance to coach again, which I really enjoy, and getting up and working with the kids and trying to rear now players of the future that hopefully can go and do the business.
Now, just with that in mind and to define that, is it time for Ian Durrant to be a manager, or do you think your role could be as part of a team as a coach?
I'd love to try to manage it, but again, it's something I've tried a couple of times, all part-time or interim manager. But the coaching side is a great now. Trying to get players evolving into your way of wanting to play now. The tactical side of it now, even the diligent side of it, getting players now to be streetwise in terms of how they want to progress, how much do they want it, installing now good values now, team values into players. I enjoy one-on-ones and going and encouraging and seeing players evolve, as I said. And now, I think you take great pride if you're rearing players and you see them going to the big time, and you know now you've been part of it now, him getting through his career.
Yeah, forgive me for being slightly biased towards this because I know him. I think, you know, when we're looking at players and teams that could benefit, it doesn't get any better for me than someone who is easily one of the best midfielders of his generation. You know, I think chairman up and down the country, albeit as Durrant said, someone will have to lose their job. But, you know, if we're looking for somebody to pass on what we're craving for, players that know and knew in his day how to pass the ball, how to play in big pressure games, you know, I don't think it's a gamble.
Yeah, and not also, you know, the way Durrant played, you know, but the people he's played with and the people he's played under. I'm sure he's sensible enough to pick the good bits from these people that he's been with, and it can only be good to rub it on youngsters in the game, and I think that's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. The only downside of it is worse for you if you're a player in the dressing room and the managers get better patter than you. But that's something you'll just have to get used to because it was an unforgiving Rangers dressing room and you had to hold your own, Durrant, am I right?
Of course you did. Now it's kill or be killed.
It's as simple as that. Let's look to that other semi-final, because if we're talking about, you know, a team that may well look and think to themselves, this is going to have to be David and Goliath, this is going to have to be, you know, almost like a rumble in the jungle in 1974, Morton must be looking and thinking 14-1 with some bookies. You know, they don't want to go to Hampden and just make up the numbers on the Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as you said, now 14-1 on paper, but games are not won on paper, Peter. I listen to Duff in the interviews and that, they're going to go and enjoy themselves. And again, now it's no hidden secret. Aberdeen's track record at Hampden is not the greatest. So they're come now overwhelming favourites. Again, I say, but that'll count for nothing now. Duff will have them organised, disciplined. I think Ruffy will touch on one of their players are missing, but again, they'll go. And again, they're going there, everybody's expecting them to lose, but see what happens now. The underdog maybe come out and rear its head again, and Morton might go through to the cup final.
Yeah, I mean, just as Ian was mentioning there, Ruffy, Jim Duffy says if they sit back and defend against Aberdeen, they're going to get spanked. He thinks they've got to have a gamble.
Yeah, and I think with the way it's been the last couple of years, we've saw teams from the lower division coming up against their Premier sides and putting up a good shift. It's not the first time that there's been a shock from that division. I think, unfortunately for Morton, I think they've got Aberdeen at the wrong time. I think Aberdeen big players are beginning to turn it on now and they're beginning to get results. So Aberdeen will go down there with a lot of confidence. They'll have the experience of being there. But I think it'll be close. I think it'll be very close. I think Aberdeen will win it in the end, but I think Morton will give them a game. Are
you surprised that they've got Derek McInnes in as one of the red hot favourites to replace Gordon Strachan? Should he go?
Yeah, I think it's a bit early yet for Derek. I think Derek will be enjoying club football, as Durrant touched on. He'll be enjoying the day-to-day, you know, with the players and everything, and the success that he's taken up to Aberdeen.
Yeah, what's your view on the country as we stand at the moment? We're 57th in the FIFA World Rankings. I don't really pay any attention to them. I just want us to qualify, Durrant. I don't care how we do it, but it's looking difficult.
You'd love a wee holiday, wouldn't you? But again, the expectation levels were now, everybody was talking about now, if they get 4 points. Now, as Ruffy knows, when you're in an Arsenal, you shouldn't be looking at now 4 points. You'd be looking at the game you're playing. They should have solely focused on, I thought, the Lithuania game, get it over and done with. But everybody was talking about the game away when they were playing Slovakia again. But they never took care of what happened in the first game against Lithuania. Then when you're going over to Slovakia, now you're on a hind to nothing. And again, now it showed later on. I think now we ran out of legs and ideas, and now the personnel, I thought they never done a job in terms of what Gordon was wanting to do.
Yeah, can you see us go down to Wembley and win?
Well, I was fortunate enough to, I was talking about obviously yourself, I was fortunate enough to be part of the last team down there with Don Hutchinson scoring the winner. And again now, Gordon will have a game plan. They've got to stick to it, but it's, as Ruffy touched on earlier doors about Celtic, they need a goal scorer from somewhere. They need somebody that's going to put the goal in the net, the ball in the net, sorry. And then take your chances for there. England will be strong. They're strong up front. And you can see them scoring, but Scotland will need to score maybe once or twice to get a victory.
Okay, just briefly, two semi-finals. Always like to get somebody's prediction on them. First one, Morton Aberdeen.
On form, I'll go for Aberdeen.
I'm making a decision now, not tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Aberdeen as well, 2-0.
Aberdeen, okay. And here's the toughest one to call, and every Rangers fan will be hanging on every line that you utter now. How do you see this one going?
I can see, if everything goes to plan and they get a bit of luck in the day, I can see Rangers sneaking it. I know it'll be hard, but I can just see them maybe sneaking it. Because I think that now they will again, underdogs, but I think that when you're talking about the Old Firm game, I don't think that comes into the equation, and I can see Rangers maybe sneaking a wee 2-1 victory.
Okay, don't bother saying anything, Ruffy. I'm going to hold you on that one, because obviously we don't want you in any kind of witness protection scheme until tomorrow before the big game at the weekend. People don't take it that seriously, do they? Thanks to Ian Durrant. Good things come to those who wait, and it was well worth the wait getting him on the programme. Absolutely delighted to have the Rangers legend with him, and fingers crossed he's back in football sooner rather than later. From Ruffy, myself and Ian, thanks for watching. Good night.